mid ଫୋନ କରିଥିଲା ମାନେ ସିଏ ଫୋନ କରିଥିଲା। ହଁ ନାଇଁ
of the infrastructure, that's another big risk that can actually bring your company down, right? And then team, like you have experts in certain areas, and if they are not available, if they don't perform, or if the risk with the team is also a huge risk that can actually bring the company down, right? So my background before starting this Apsara was running large scale infrastructure operations. So I learned a lot of things there, and I'm applying that to help the companies. Now, with that learning and that experience, we actually built a platform that addresses these areas of risk. Now, that is like, it should be simple, it should be scalable, and that is L2 cloud. So it is a single tenant multi-cloud platform. I'm not going to go into the details. I mean, I think, we do have a slide here. So, we can go into the details later, but that is a platform that actually born from the necessities that we heard from our customers. So we already have customers. This is kind of a little weird, like, we have customers, but we don't have a vetted product yet. We are in the process of building that with the customers in hand. So our customers are trying it, and we are going to launch that sometime in the next few months as a product. Kind of compare that with any SD-WAN solution like Ariakas of the world, right? So it's open questions, and we just got your back. That's kind of what I want you to live with. When you are trying to address any of these risks, security, availability, performance, or the team risk, because networking is actually one of the complex areas in every infrastructure that companies struggle. So we help them with that.
Basically, any startup that wants infrastructure. I think from what I understand, his costs are 50% of what you end up paying AWS or Azure or somebody. Am I right?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Cost is actually another risk that can actually bring the company down.
Thus you can pretty
If
much
you,
provide,
you know,
and you're not putting your data into a cloud. You have your own infrastructure, which he runs off of other data centers. That's essentially the value, especially for startup companies.
the key word is that single tenant. We actually create a single tenant infrastructure for you that is secure by nature, right? I mean, see, like, nothing is more secure than single tenancy. So layer 2 isolated, and hence the name L2 cloud. So I think that's all. I mean, I think I'm open to questions.
What's the smallest unit somebody wants to get?
What's the smallest unit?
As small as you want. You can get a couple of VMs, doesn't matter. Because every customer that we onboard, we create the network. That's like, and the scale of the network depends on the scale of your need. But the separation, or like, the VLANs or VXLANs, whatever the networking isolation that we provide, is for everybody.
I think with AWS, what happens is you keep adding services, and those services, it adds to the cost. So initially it looks cheap, inexpensive, but there is this curve that you hit with AWS. At some point of time, AWS cost actually starts going up pretty dramatically. In fact, that's the problem you guys are solving as well. And that's where he comes into play for companies that require security, requires performance, flexibility, all of that. He can just set it up. Very easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know this like, more than better than anybody else.
I did the selling for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Thank you very much, Gopal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gopal.
Thanks for sponsoring.
Yeah, thank you.
Next time you're going to be a bigger sponsor. That's why I did the pitch.
Let's give him a bigger job than this one, isn't it? This is peanuts. But thank you so much for joining. Before I introduce BV, who you already know, I don't think he needs an introduction. I just don't know if all of you all here in the room and on the phone, and people who will watch this video later on realize all the things we are doing in the back end. So I just want to spend like a few minutes talking about who we are beyond what you all just see. So just as a quick poll in the room, how many of you all know what our corporate partnership program is? Anybody knows that? Yeah, the Krishna knows about it. Okay, a few folks. Vivek, I hope you passed the test. You're in now. You can stay. But just this is a quick overview of the functions or the pillars of FalconX. As you know, you guys are the core, the key. Everything is revolves around you. Our mission is to just empower and help our startups innovate and succeed globally. That's our mission. So everything that we are building, whether it's these community activities that we're doing, content creation, corporate partnerships, all of that is just to support you all. The reason I'm bringing this up is I want to make sure that you all realize that your participation, your engagement, the energy you put in is what is going to grow the community. And the best founders I know are the ones who know how to use the ecosystem really, really well. And that's a differentiating factor. And know that corporate partnership, for example, is something very close to me, because I realized when I was a founder, it was really hard for me to go and do my own sales. I just didn't have the time. I was doing everything else as well. So if I had an accelerator like this who was going around doing my BD for me at scale, it would have been so phenomenal. My life would have been so much easier. So I want you to know that we're doing that. So when I do ask you guys to be part of specific subgroups and communicate, engage, and create a list of what is it that you want, make a list of your ICPs, that's the background, because we are going to go take your requirements and go out there in the market and do your BD for you. Okay, and you obviously know all the other functions, but I just wanted to spend a little time to talk about that. Next page. Let's get on to the Ask Me Anything. The reason I wanted to do an AMA with BV is so many folks have been wanting to meet BV. It became really hard for us logistically to provide a piece of him to everybody. So we said, why don't we do a session like this? It'll be intimate, it'll be small, it'll be member only. We can ask questions in a safe space and connect with each other and him. This slide right here talks about who BV is. You already know. He's been a multi-billion-dollar company founder many times over. I'm not going to read that. You already know it. I'll tell you what I think your achievements are, BV. I think the biggest achievement is that BV, what he decides to do with his time and his energy after having been successful. I think that's very phenomenal. He could have been sending rocket ships to Mars or doing other things which I cannot mention in a public forum that a lot of other folks do who are extremely successful. But guess what he does? He spends his time, his energy helping all of us, always with a smile, never, says no to anybody. I really appreciate that the most about you. So thank you for being here.
Kind words.
Sure, anytime. And I'm going to hand over the mic to him. This is a meeting between you and him. I don't need to be involved. The only reason I'm inserting myself is to make sure that our friends on the computer, on Zoom, have access to you as well. And that's the only reason. So I'm going to hand over the mic. Please feel free to ask him any questions. It's a safe space.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here. When Murali sent me an email about 3-4 weeks ago, is that when Murali you sent the email? He said, can you do the AMA? Can you do a talk at AMA? Honestly, I thought he's asking me to speak at American Medical Association. Because, his wife is a doctor and she's also a professor at Stanford University. And I thought there is some medical conference where he's asking me, and very recently we also have been involved in some medical technologies as well. So I thought that he's asking me to come and speak at the American Medical Association. Honestly, I did not even know what AMA was. So before we start the Q&A, why don't I just 5 minutes, right? I'll give my background because most people may not know all the things that we have gone through. I think it will help. So I came to this country back in 1982. That's about 42 years ago, exactly 42 years ago. And I had a dream to start my own company at some point of time. The inspiration for that actually came when I was doing my master's in Bombay, and I happened to intern at a startup company called Bombay Electronics. And I was very fortunate to work directly with this founder who is a PhD from Case Western Reserve University. And he was building educational, some people were talking about educational products. And he was actually building educational kits for colleges, primarily colleges. And I got introduced to working on microprocessors way back in 1979, right? My master's was between 78 and 80. So during that summer break of 79 is when I got to do this internship in this company. I was very fortunate to get that opportunity. And the next 1 year, 1.5 years, I was very closely working with this founder. And that's when I realized the fun of working for a startup company, the fun of actually doing multiple things, of wearing multiple hats. And more than anything, any simple thing you do, you have a direct impact on the customers. You have a direct impact on the company revenue. You have a direct impact on the rest of the employees within the organization. So with that sort of a background, when I came here, I wanted to start my own company. And I came here 82. It took me about 11 years to sort of settle down and all of that. And then I was fortunate to bump into a partner who brought a lot of sales sort of a background, and the two of us partnered together. And we started this company called Exodus Communications, which pioneered the whole concept of internet data centers. And that didn't happen by 100% planning, because back then, as immigrants, it was almost impossible for us to raise the money from venture capitalists. Almost impossible. Nobody would give us money. So what we did was we started a consulting company, which is what helped to generate the revenues. In fact, this building that we are in right now, thanks to JP, this building was occupied by Adaptec. Those who are old timers would know that what Adaptec used to do. And Adaptec was actually one of the very, very early customers for us in this consulting part of the business. So the revenue that we generated from that, and the profits, of course, that we made out of that, everything we put back into building Exodus Communications. And this happened for almost 2 years. And both of us, we had no salary for almost 2 years. And this is, I'm talking about 93 end. And when we got the first round of funding back in 1996, February, that's a month and 2 years and 3 months. So we had revenues close to $3.5 million of annual revenue in the internet data center space. And we had like 50, 60 customers. And we had to raise the money at that time. We had no other choice, because we were getting debt from various people. And personally, I myself had mortgaged my house, 100K, to buy the first Cisco router. So it was pretty precarious condition. And luckily, we bumped into Kanwal Reiki, with whom I work very closely right now. And he wrote the first 200K check. And then he helped to bring a whole bunch of other venture capitalists. And now, with $3.5 million in revenue, this is the first time ever we are getting a term sheet to raise $3.5 million. And the ask was pre-money 3.5, post-money $7 million. So that's what? Give up 50%. And if you don't accept that, pretty much we have no future, right? It's not like they pushed us to the corner, but we had no other choice at that point of time, given our background. So that's why I always tell the entrepreneurs that don't get hung up too much on the valuation. So eventually we went on to build a company that became the #1 internet data center company in the world, where we had, at one point of time, almost close to 50% of the world's internet traffic was flowing through our data centers. 50%, right? Morgan Stanley actually wrote a report, right, computing all the customers that we had and the amount of traffic that was going through, 50% of the customers. And in fact, US president back then, who was Bill Clinton, he named Exodus as a national asset, because the kind of customers that we had, you can think of anybody. Everybody was Exodus customers back then, right? So that was the kind of company we went on to build. So the point I'm trying to say is that, #1, don't get overly hung up on the valuation. #2 is create a big value, right? And ultimately, it doesn't matter, right? If you create a huge value in the company, the returns will always be very good for everybody, investors and employees, and of course, yourself. So the point is, take on an idea that is big enough and work towards how you can be the main dominant players. I mean, that's what has happened if you look at Nutanix. That's what Nutanix is. I mean, today we can tell that as a story, but when the company was going through the challenges of what they went through, it was not easy. Things didn't happen overnight. It was through a lot of discovery. In fact, as a matter of fact, I always feel the case study of Exodus is an anomaly because I've never seen you have a product and the market actually converges exactly at the time when you have built the product. This has never happened. I mean, I've been involved with hundreds of companies. Never it has happened that you build a product and the market also converges exactly at the same time. That doesn't mean you cannot build a great company. It's just that you have to have patience. You have to have the navigation capability to go figure out the market fit. It takes time. So that essentially comes down to the fact that you have to manage your cash wisely, right? We now have an angel fund called Silicon Valley Quad, and we are now trying to do the same thing, similar thing, even at FalconX as well. So we have so far funded about 24, 25 companies. That one company that went under, they did not manage the cash properly, right? They kept taking $250,000 salary, and they just blew up the $2.5 million that we gave. Even before the product was built, even before they had any customers. And they thought that once the money is spent, they can just come back to us and ask for more money. Nobody is going to give money. Nobody. So your job is, if somebody trusts you and then gives you some amount of cash, you have to figure out, how do I manage my cash very efficiently? That's the number one thing, because the day you run out of cash, the game is over. It's just over. That's it. There's nothing that can be done, because in California, the law is, if you don't have enough money in the bank to pay the paycheck for your employees, you cannot legally run the company. You just cannot. So managing your cash is the number one thing that all of us as entrepreneurs, we need to learn, and we need to apply that. So, and you as founders, you take the ultimate responsibility to make that happen. Anyway, so after Exodus, I did another company called NetScaler, and we went through this whole .com crash. And as a matter of fact, the experience that I had at NetScaler was far more than the experience that I had at Exodus, because of these ups and downs, the challenges of market going down, and the original product that we built, we had to pivot because the whole market just collapsed. And the whole product was built based on the whole scaling of the internet, and the whole internet just collapsed, right? The scaling did not happen as we anticipated. So we had to pivot. So that requires a lot of thought process, a lot of collaboration with your key players. So luckily we had good investors, where when we decided to pivot, we actually gave 3 options to our investors so that we make a fair decision. One is return the rest of the money, whatever that we had in the bank, back to the investors, which was like 35 cents on a dollar. Number 2 is completely reset the company. And we had a totally new idea that we're going to take the money that we had and go and build a very different product. And the third is pivot from what we were originally planning to do, but it was an incremental sort of a pivot. We had this in the roadmap. It's just that we accelerated the whole development process of that. And guess what? That's the product which eventually, so the investors actually agreed to go with the third option, because they said, hey, we funded you guys for the experience and expertise that you have for what you wanted to do. So we don't need the money. Just go with the third idea, which is pivoting and building a new product. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, also fine. Right? We don't want the money back. So we took the money and I mean, we didn't, we took that direction and we managed our cash very, very, very efficiently at the time. So that is when the toughest decision that I had to at that point of time was to let go almost 50% of our employees in the US. Because if we had continued the way we were doing our development and all of that over here, we would not have survived. So we had to take a very tough decision. And I'll just give you what was the thought process in actually letting go, because we had to let go even some of the best performers that we had. So how would you make a decision, right? Which is a very important thing. If this will be presented to you, you also need to think. So we decided that we would let go people or we'll keep people based on functions that were absolutely needed in the company. So that means sometimes you would even keep a B+ player who's actually good in the job that he or she was doing. So the decision was not based on everybody performing at the A or the A+ level, but the decision to keep people was based on the functionality that is required in the company. So say, in a company, right, you need customer support people, you need people to support IT, you need people to support different functions, QA, right? So you cannot, just because some of the engineers are the best engineers that you had, you cannot just keep only the A+ player. And you ask the A+ player, who is the best engineer, to go and do QA, he or she will say, no, I don't want to do QA. Or I don't want to do manufacturing. I don't want to do operations. So that was the thought process. And there were a lot of repercussions from employees we had to let go. But luckily, this product we built, it took off. And we pretty much hired most of these employees back after about a year or so. So the reason why I'm mentioning this, right, is all of us will be presented with these kind of situations. So managing cash and managing your people wisely is the most important thing. So what we decided at that time, when we let go 50% of the company, immediately we kicked off a development center in India. In fact, we were the very first ones to start the development center to build products in India. Because at that time, I'm talking about 2002. In 2002, although Cisco and NetApp and all these guys were there, the engineers who used to build the product back in India always used to do the previous versions of the software, right? Which is mostly bug fixing, never a major functionality. So because of that, we were able to attract some of the top talent to come and work for us. Because we said, whatever product we are releasing here, you are going to be working on the same product. So the top talent, what we realized was money is not the only driving factor for these people. The work that they do is more important than the money. So we were never at the stage where an MNC was paying. We were almost like 20, 25% lower than what Cisco was paying, what NetApp was paying. But still, we were able to attract the best talent. But there, you play a very important role as an entrepreneur. How, as a leader, you motivate and you show your vision to these people, because they're looking up to you, right? Is this the leader that I'm going to work for? So building a company is not just about a product, not just about, putting together these things. It's about the leadership. It's about how you bring the people, how you retain the people, how you motivate these people, right? Because people are giving up some other job to come and work in your company. And they're relying on you. So you are the leader. So these are characteristics that not everybody is born with it, but you can acquire. Right? So listen, watch to other people to say, hey, what do I need to do? So for example, if I have to give a speech, right, to a large audience, you don't just go and blabber something. You prepare yourself. You know, John Chambers, when he gave a speech, keynote speech, he used to practice 10 times. He never looked at the slides. Never looked at the slides. I don't know how many of you have actually seen John Chambers' presentations. It's a classic thing to watch Chambers give. In fact, Chambers was always my role model. Always. Because of his leadership skills, how good he was to his employees, and all the characteristics that Chambers had, and how intense he was, especially when it comes to customers. How he used to drive his organization to ensure that ultimately customers are taken care of. Right? These are qualities that you learn. It's not that I had those characteristics, but you learn these characteristics, right? And that's how you become a great leader. And that's what is the fun part of building a company. So, because when you get funding from venture capitalists, they'll be looking up to you. And if you're not delivering, if you don't have the leadership skills, the first thing they'll do is bring an outside CEO, which may not be the right thing for the company. But if you don't deliver, that's what they're going to do. Okay. So remember some of these things and learn these skills and characteristics as you grow. So every aspect of what I have mentioned right now, from financial management perspective, from customer-centric point of view, from leadership point of view, right? And decision-making during the toughest times, and transparency, especially with your employees. All of these things is very, 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 very critical as you are building a great company. Okay, so I'll stop at this point of time. I'll be happy to take any questions, which is the AMA session right now.
I have one question online. If you want to sit down, because it's a long.
My watch.
Oh, yeah. Time to get up and walk. You can pace if you want some steps. But Abhishek sent us a question saying, love to know your thoughts on goal setting for a startup and perseverance. Many a times, the timelines don't get met as there are too many variables. How does one keep oneself and stakeholders motivated in that situation?
Good question. Very good question. So as a founder, you have to be very intimately involved with your people, everything that happens. Obviously, you have to set some goals, right? And a lot of times you set these goals and you don't really have the entire visibility to execute on it. Nobody has. Who knows what kind of problems you're going to bump into, right? So what is the most important thing is to be with your team at all times. And I'll tell you how I used to manage these things. So that if the deadline has to be moved for a right reason, we have to move it. We have to move the deadlines, right? Even in sales, if sales numbers don't get hit for the right reasons, what are the right reasons? The right reasons could be the product was not ready, right? Or there were not enough leads that we created for the sales guys, for a sales guy to succeed. So everything, you have to look at it from a holistic point of view rather than just blaming one person. So I'll give you one example. I'll give you sales example. I'll also give you the engineering example. So in sales example, in 2004, first quarter, we were supposed to have done $5 million at NetScaler. Sequoia was an investor by then. And it so happened that we could not hit the number, and we did only $4 million. So we lost almost 20%, we were off, which is not a good sign. So what I did was I took my VP of sales to Sequoia Capital to explain the actual reason as to why we missed out. The reason why we missed out was because this product that we had built, we had 3 different value propositions. We had a value proposition of performance. We had a value proposition of a load balancer. We had a value proposition of a security, SSL VPN. These are the 3 different things. And all 3 have 3 different buyers. So because we had not yet figured out the positioning of the product, so there was confusion. And because of that, the sales was not able to go after the right customers yet. Now, what Sequoia told me later on, right? The fact that I explained all of these things very clearly, I said, as a company, I take the responsibility that we missed the numbers because of these reasons. And these are the steps I'm taking, right, to correct from this issue that we had. And one of the key things that I also mentioned as a responsibility is that I will not hire additional salespeople until I have these metrics that are met by the company. So I was very clear. Until we, because, you know, any business plan, right, will have, you have to hire so many salespeople, you have to hire so many engineers and blah, 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 that stuff, especially for the growth aspect of it. So I said very clearly that we have not met these metrics, and these are the metrics. I listed out the metrics, and unless we meet these metrics, we are not going to increase the sales marketing expense at all. So he was actually very satisfied. And later on, he told me, you know, if this were to be any other CEO, they would have just pointed the finger at the VP of sales and got rid of the VP sales. So that means you've fired a messenger rather than fixing the problem, because the problem continued, right? And I had the confidence that my sales guy was a great guy. I mean, he had his own flaws, which is fine, but those are fixable problems. But at the end of the day, as a company, we had a problem in the positioning aspect of it. So we fixed these issues 1 quarter, 2 quarters later. So a lot of things actually got cleared out, and then, you know, revenue just took off after that. So what happened? What is the outcome of this? The outcome of this is your sales guy now built the ultimate trust in you, because he knew that I did not put him under the bus. So he works even harder now to meet his numbers, because he knows his CEO is very supportive of him and took the real blame, which is what the real blame is, right? So same thing with engineering, product. So with product, obviously, you know, a lot of times you don't know if you bump into some complex bug. There is no way you can deliver this product. So we had an issue with the product. The product was being tested. So back in those days, there was news sites, news servers. So these news servers was run by some company in Southern California. These were massive news servers. And NetScaler was put in front of that. And randomly, with absolutely no pattern behind it, the product used to crash. And this guy complaining about the product, and then ultimately he gave an ultimatum saying that if you guys cannot fix the product, I have to pull it out. And exactly at the same time, Google is evaluating our product. Google is evaluating our product. And so now you, as CEO, right? You have to figure out how to help your team. So what is the first thing I did? First thing is we have to exactly find out what is the issue. So we had I kind of polled and everybody pointed fingers at Cisco. Cisco was behind us. So they said, this is a Cisco problem. So this one smartest customer engineer that we had, he said, I don't have all the data to say that this is a Cisco problem. I said, explain to me. So he went to the whiteboard and he explained the whole thing. And I trusted this guy. I said, okay, in order for you to be convinced whether this is our problem or Cisco problem, what do you need? He basically said, I need 2 analyzers, one on this side of the network and one on that side of the network. And it was going to cost us like $10,000 to rent for a month. I said, okay, fine, approved it. These 2 analyzers, and we got, he was able to actually trap it. And it turned out it was a NetScaler problem rather than a Cisco problem, right? If I had believed blindly with the rest of the guys rather than to this guy, and he was a customer engineer, actually. He's not a software developer or a QA guy. He's a customer engineer, but a very smart guy. So so the problem was identified that it is NetScaler. So then we put our best engineers, and then it turned out that there was a misbehavior by Intel chip. And luckily I had contacts at Intel at that time. And I called the distinguished engineer, and he came with his whole team. And then he recommended some solutions for us. And then finally, we implemented those changes, and the problem sort of went away. And believe it or not, within a week after we fixed the problem in that site in Southern California, Google hit the same problem. And because we already fixed it, we just went and changed whatever that was required. And so Google was absolutely blown away, right? Google, at that stage, they were so blown away with our engineering capability. They were not blown away with anything else, not with sales, not with marketing, but they were just blown away with the engineering capability. And every one of these things that was demonstrated gave them more and more confidence that this is the company that we want to partner with. And of course, the first order from Google itself was almost like $2.5 million. So the rest is history. So when these things happen, you as a CEO, you have to use every connection that you have, everything that people, rather than just taking a stick and beating people, because that doesn't help. Just doesn't help. Right? That's what a lot of people do. I mean, one of the startup companies that we funded, we hired this VP of sales. So this fellow, all of us interviewed, by the way, all of us interviewed this guy. We brought him on board, and this guy refuses to go in front of customers. Refuses to go. All that he does, he sits in his office, he calls up his sales guys. We are like 2 or 3 sales guys. Hey, what's happening with this deal? What's happening with that deal? When are you going to close it? Right? Because there is a number that he has to meet, and he's just beating up his salespeople. So obviously, we had to let him go in whatever, 3 months or 6 months. So, but it helped us when we interviewed the next candidate. So the question, hey, are you afraid to go in front of the customers? Because in startup, right? If your sales guy is not going in front of customers, it's not going to solve the problem for you. You don't want somebody to be a manager beating up your guys. And same thing applies to the engineer also. The engineering guy wants to be architecting with engineers, wants to be designing with engineers, the engineering lead. So those are the characteristics. This is how, right? The goals are set and the goals are altered for the right reasons. Okay. I hope I didn't give a long answer. Yes.
Hello, my name is Vineet, founder of RightScare. So I have a query regarding the financial management and hiring. So sometimes you put in a place where you have to hire high skill people because you want to move things fast. But at the same time, you have to manage the cash flow because like things can run out pretty well soon. So sometimes we have to do this trade-off. Sometimes we have to let things go slow, or sometimes we have to move fast. And but by firing people as fast as possible to try things and that things are not working out with this specific person, this can also create a lot of problems, like how the company behaves with new hires and those image as well.
Yeah.
So just want to understand what is your experience in this trade-off, basically hiring and the cash flow management.
Yeah. No, very good question. Yeah.
Thank
I mean, especially when you don't have enough money, how do you hire the best people, right? That is the biggest challenge. So I've gone through these things. I'll explain certain things that we did. And again, it comes back to the leadership. It comes back to how well you can inspire your employees. So we, in 1994, 1995, when we were not funded at that point of time, we were relying on, remember I told you, we had this consultancy business, which is what was giving us the money to go, and we were pumping that profit from that into this business. So it's a very cash constraint part of it at that point of time. So we were growing slowly, and we had to hire some smart people. And there was this one guy, I mean, back in those days, you advertise similar to, how you do on LinkedIn. We used to advertise on news groups. So you advertise on news groups. I'm sure you would know, Gopa would know as well. You advertise on news groups, and you know very well in the news groups, only technically qualified people are the ones who will be looking at that. Right? No one else will be looking at it. So this is very specific. So this one guy who responded, really smart guy. And back in those days, he had an offer in a San Francisco company for $50,000. And our budget was $36,000 annual salary, because we had two other guys, and that's all we were paying those guys. And if we give him even a penny more, we had to increase the salary for those two. So what do we have to do? This is a very smart guy. So we inspired him by taking him through the interview process and all the technical challenges and all of those things. So he was convinced this is the company that I want to work for. Okay. He was absolutely convinced that this is the company I want to work for. So then he came and said, look, I have an offer for $50,000 for whatever, some company, which was like 10% of what we were doing at that time. And because of the fact that he was so inspired by the work we were doing and the work that he was going to do with us, what we did was, hey, we'll give you stock options. We'll give you enough stock options that if we succeed, you will actually make a good wealth out of this. Believe it or not, right? He actually accepted the offer at 14,000 less than what he was getting, which is a big money. It's a big money. But the bet he made on us eventually paid off. Paid off in a big way. It not only created the wealth for him, but a career that he made out of what he did with us really helped him to just take off. So the point I'm trying to say is, every person that you hire, your role is to inspire that person to come and join you, come and work for you. So money is not the key driving factor. I did mention this, even in India, when we hired engineers, we were paying 20 to 25% less than what MNCs were paying. Why did they come and work for us? Because of the job that they were going to do, the impact that they were going to create, and the kind of people that they're going to work with. So it should not be just a job. It has to be something bigger. It has to be, hey, I'm solving a customer problem, and you are going to be part of that, right? If you have read Microsoft, Bill Gates' story, the way how he used to recruit people, the best of the best engineers, even they couldn't afford at that time. He used to tell, you come and join Microsoft. The code that you are going to write is going to be on 1 million desktops at that time. 1 million desktops will have the code that you are writing. I mean, imagine, right? If I'm an engineer, how excited I would be that the code that I'm writing is going to be sitting on so many people's desktop. So many people will be using. We'll get that opportunity. You go work. I don't know how many of you have worked for IBM. IBM always used to have 2 products running in parallel. And I know so many people in IBM who have never seen their product that they have built see the light of the day. I've never, so many people, even Google does this these days, right? So they pick of the 2 products that are developed, 2 teams that are developing the same product. They pick one and the other one gets canned. So there are people, the entire career, they have worked for IBM, having never built a product that has been put in front of a customer. So compared to that, right, you have a startup. What you do has an immediate impact on the customer. So that is how you address. So you cannot just look at everything only from the numbers perspective, right, to hire the people. But if you inspire, you have to, at the end of the day, you have to take care of it. Plus, you also compensate with some stock options. But you play a very important role in recruiting these people. Yes.
So my question is for early stage startups, you have the engineering and then you may have a marketing, the
Product
sales
management. You won't have
product,
marketing.
yeah, product management, but
The founder is everything.
right. Sales still needs to happen. And, you know, founders usually do not have those skills. So what are the different options? Like, where do you learn it? How do you make it happen? Where do you get help?
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, if the founder doesn't have the skills of the sales, right? So number one is founder, if he or she has connections to open the door, because you don't need to actually do the classic selling. The first 20 customers, you don't need to do the classic selling. You have to go figure out through these kind of social events, these kind of
So let me rephrase the question a little bit. You know, you have first founder-led sales, but you still need to kind of set up the pipeline, get it more where the founder doesn't have to be involved. So that needs more professionalism, more experience on the sales side.
Yes.
So where do you find
Yeah.
that?
So what you do is you find salespeople who have worked in startup companies, very early startup companies. And you have to find that person. You have to find a person. And his whole point will be, how am I going to be compensated? Right? So if there is no product to sell, or if I'm not able to sell, because usually sales is you sell and you get a quota, there is a quota for you, and then you generate revenue for the company, and then you get commissions out of it, right? And usually in the US, it's 50-50. There is a 50 base pay and there is a 50% commission. So if I'm drawing 300K somewhere, which is 150 base and 150 commissions, and then you call this person and then you offer the same thing, 150, 150, but there is no product to sell, and he doesn't know whether he's going to meet that 150K or not. So how are you going to structure the compensation? So this is where the cleverness of the founder comes in. How do you structure? Basically, you say, get me 10 customers to do the POC. Okay. Get me of the 10 customers, 2 of them to be some well-known names, marquee names, to do the POC. Okay. And get me of the 10, get me 2 or 3 to kick off the POC. So one is signing the POC. The other one is to kick off the POC, proof of concept. So you know now that you are pushing him or her to meet the objectives that the company actually has, right? This is how you build the pipeline. And this is exactly what these guys do. And he has nothing to lose at this point of time because he doesn't have to sell. And if he sells, you throw some other incentives for him. If he actually ends up selling the product, you throw additional. It's okay for salespeople to make money, actually. See, lot of entrepreneurs think that, oh, it's paying too much because they try to cut corners. They try to, like, instead of going through the channel where you have to pay 30, 35% to them, right? You try to bypass by going direct because I only have to give 20% discount. But what you lost out during the process is the trust with the channel partners, right? You mean you've done sales. So in sales, it's all about, including your own salespeople, it's all about establishing the trust. And if the guy feels that you are a trustworthy leader, that he can depend on you, right? Then he knows he will give 200%. We actually had a guy like that, very early on. I mean, that's all he was doing, is using his connections. So you have to bring the right person. One is you have to bring a person who has gone through the startup experience. Number 2 is you have to bring a person who has some contacts in the domain where you want to sell. So for example, if you are breaking into Wall Street, right, you cannot open the doors. So what you do is you get a sales guy who understands, who has connections. You find that out during the interview process. Okay. And then you structure the compensation so that he's not a loser. No sales guy will come where he will end up taking a pay cut. What do you think? Right? It's all a coin operate. So over a period of time, right, how you structure the compensation, you have to do it very carefully, because what happens is year 1, even if you have a product, it's in the very early stages, you cannot go tell this guy, I'm setting a $2 million quota for you. Because you know very well, $2 million is not going to happen. Right? So you set a reasonable quota. You tell him, achieve 500K in order for you to, plus all these other things. Give me 500K plus, some marquee customers to do the POC and this, that, blah, 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 that stuff. You structure the compensation that you will make the 300K. 150 plus 150. Is that the going salary right now? About 275 to 300K. Yeah. Yeah. And the second thing you do is, I used to do this when my VP sales used to come stand in front of my door, right? I knew there is something that he wants. He wants maybe a discount. Maybe he wants some assurance. Maybe he wants something. So you give him that 2 minutes of the time. So give importance to sales, because sales is such an important function that we don't get to appreciate the sales. Because if sales doesn't happen, nothing makes any sense in the company. At the end of the day, if sales don't happen, What is the point in having a great product? What is the point in having the great marketing? What is the point in having great messages? Nothing matters if you don't get a PO. Bottom line, you have to get a PO, you have to ship the product, you have to satisfy the customer, you have to generate the revenue. How do you pick? Put these qualities. Startup. Guy should have worked in the startup. Early stage startup. Early stage startup. And somebody who has basically gone through the initial stages. There are people, and they enjoy doing that actually, because they feel that they made the company happen. And it's fine that they make good money. Our number one, the very first sales guy that we got at Exodus, eventually went on to become the number one sales guy in the company. So you as a company, you have to give all the help that is required to make this guy successful, because he's opening the door for you. So you throw your top engineers to go on sales calls with him. Okay. So these are all important things. It has to be built into your DNA that I have to make the sales guy successful.
All right. So we have questions on the online. So sorry, Rishi, didn't mean to cut you off, but Pawan, do you want to unmute and see if we can hear you? If not, I have a question.
Yes, yes. Am I able to hear? Am I able to?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Devi. Hi, I'm Pawan. I'm from India. I think I'm the only one who's in this online group. Bibi, you talked about product market fit so much well for Exodus, right? I mean, it fits so much well for you, right? You know the market now, right? I mean, it's flooded with a lot of when the SaaS products, vertical SaaS products, so many things which are already there in the market now, right? So, assuming you have a great team, discipline on managing the money, experience of building a product from 0 to 1, right? How would you actually go about building a new product? I mean, how do you brainstorm on a new idea in the current state of market? I mean, I would like to pick your brain on that, BV. We are in that phase now, by the way.
Yeah. In fact, right now, before I came here, I was actually in a meeting with a design partner for one of the companies that we are looking at funding. So essentially, we have told the founder that he or she needs to have a bunch of design partners. So who is a design partner? A design partner is someone who can influence the product, who is knowledgeable, right, about the space. And you partner with a person like that as a design partner, right, who will work with you to shape the product, especially the last 5 to 10% of the product. You cannot go and ask the design partner, hey, I'm a great founder. This is what my background is. I have all this great background. Tell me what I should build. Instead, the conversation is, this is what I'm building. And tell me if this is a fit for you in your environment. Okay? And this is the value we believe that we would bring to the table. If this is the value that's given to you, does it make sense for you to use our product? And how much would you pay for it? Have all these open conversations. This is exactly the conversation I was just having with a design partner for a potential company that we are looking at investing. Okay. So this is what you need to do. You need to line up about 10 or so potential design partners. And you work with these guys. Not all of them are going to sign up. Maybe 4 or 5 of them will sign up. That's fine. And you make them like an advisor to the company, right? As a design partner to the company. And then you tell them when the product is built that they'll be the first one to access the product. And you also tell them that you will give some deep discounts for them as they embrace the product.
I'm sorry. sorry to interrupt, baby. I mean, I think my question is primarily to, I mean, I understand the design partner role. Yeah, I mean, it's that's the road we are taking to. I mean, I'm primarily, looking for some help in terms of, figuring out the market in which we have to go and build for. So I'm like venturing for a new idea, trying to build a new B2B product. So how do I actually focus my brainstorming, or how should I actually look at the markets to build? What kind of product should I build is what I'm actually talking about.
No, but you as a founder, when you're solving a problem, you should know, right, who the customer is.
Yeah, yes, I mean,
You should
that's
know.
true.
I mean, if I'm building a DevOps product, which helps in deploying the products in my development, the ops environment, right? So you know who the buyer is. So then you go find a evangelist within that DevOps to be your design partner.
Makes
So
sense.
you have to know who that design partner is. I mean, you have to know to whom you are selling this product. That is
Yes.
something you as a founder, you should be very clear about. Who is my customer? And then what happens is you start narrowing it down to, if this is my customer and if this is the environment. So for example, I'll give you, in case of Nutanix, what happened. So in case of Nutanix is a primary storage company, which is based on this whole concept called hyperconvergence. But customer doesn't care. This hyperconvergence technology is not what customer cares. So what customer cares is, okay, what is the value this hyperconvergence primary server going to bring to me? Right? So in fact, what happened was I took them to a couple of customers, and it was a very compelling presentation actually, because they'll say, you just deploy one cluster of ours for $100,000 and you can have so many users on this. So the customer, after listening to the conversation, he said, this is a pretty exciting stuff. I have budgeted about $500,000 to buy my primary storage right now. And what I'll do is I'll allocate $100,000 for you, and another $400,000 I'll go with NetApp. So I have this application where can you coexist and deploy this with NetApp? Then they said, no, our product doesn't work with existing primary servers. So it has to be a brand new application. It has to be greenfield application where we have to deploy this concept. So when we walked out, so this customer said, you mean you cannot work with an existing primary storage vendor? They said, no, it has to be greenfield application. I walked out, I said, are you guys kidding me? That's exactly what my reaction was. Are you kidding me that you built an infrastructure product that doesn't coexist with? No, BV, I have to explain to you this whole thing. We have to find brand new applications for this. Anyway, so finally, they actually found this whole VDI as an application that was emerging within enterprises, the virtual desktop. And then the story started to present very well for that use case. And that was a greenfield sort of an application. So over a period of time, today they are a primary storage for any application, right? People have deployed them for email servers. People have deployed them for web servers. People have deployed them for various applications. So, database servers they have deployed. So it's not necessarily just the VDI, although VDI is almost like 30–40% of the market. But your job as a founder is to navigate and figure this out, right? And remember, I was telling you that Exodus was an anomaly because we built this product and market converged. But no other company that at least I have dealt with has found the product market fit day one. It's the job of the founder to navigate this whole journey, navigate this whole path to figure out, right? How do I fit this? If I know this is the customer who is going to be buying this product, then how does this fit in? In fact, this conversation we were having just this afternoon is there are so many applications that already exist. I cannot just go and say, take out all your applications and then put me in. Nobody is going to do it. So what is the, in fact, Chandar basically says, right? What is the onlyness that your product does? And how does that fit into your existing environment? So you have to fit into Salesforce. You have to fit into Clary. You have to fit into, Gong. You have to fit into all these other applications that are already deployed. And what is your value proposition in that environment? I think customer is willing to pay for it. So that's the job of founder that you have to go through. And nobody can help you with that. I mean, we can brainstorm.
Oops, we lost you. We're not able to hear you. Can you unmute me, Murli? I think we are not able to hear. We are not able to hear. Murli, we are not able to hear. We lost the sound.
is
Because we already got few deployments, then group of much more than group of concept is done. It's coexisting with another large vendor's product. Now we have to take the product to the larger market.
Yeah.
So that is where we have the constraint. The proceeds, whatever is made from the consulting business or the services business is not sufficient. And founders have been very, very conservative when it comes to taking some.
Got it. So there are two ways to address this. You have to make enough money in generating revenues in your consulting business. And as we talked the other day, you hire a CEO who wakes up in the morning and his job is, how do I increase my consulting revenues every day? Right? So that's how you grow your consulting business. If you know exactly what needs to be done in the services business, just go figure that out. Increase the revenues. Otherwise, you will always be in a catch-22 situation. So you look at, for example, Infosys. Infosys did that financial, what is that product called? Fintech, huh? Yeah. So they had enough money that they were generating in the consulting business. They can afford to put money for product development, to go and market it, to go and sell it, right? So you don't have to be at that stage, but you need to get to a stage where if you believe that this product has the potential, then make the right investment in the consulting to generate significant revenues, right? Somewhere you have to, otherwise that's point number one. Point number two is you have to figure out if you can raise money, right? Your story has to be compelling enough to somebody who trusts you and then puts money in the company. There is no other magic in this. These are the only two things that can potentially happen.
Last question, maybe?
Yeah, a couple of people are asking. Is there any other question on?
Yes. So my query is aligned to a previous query. So sometimes we like when we work on things in a startup, sometimes put in a place where we have to hack our way out, or sometimes to work more organized manner. So in both the direction, when we work, like we get a lot of suggestions from a lot of people. As a first time founder, also you don't know a lot of things. So just want to understand your experience, like because sometimes it is very inefficient because we don't know the organized way to work in certain things. But sometimes when we hack our way out, sometimes like the way of working is sometimes is not acceptable to a lot of people. So just want to understand, do you have
Give me an example.
Sometimes for just sales example. Okay, I am if I am trying to figure out a product market fit, I'm trying to you can say trying to contact a customer. Okay, so now the traditional way could be like I do a proper prospecting, I do a proper market research, do understand what our customer are, do proper prospecting, and then follow the sequencing and all those process, and then I reach out to them, schedule, and all those like standard process. Okay, now the other way out is I don't understand this organized process, and I just skip directly reaching out to randomly on LinkedIn or randomly on references, randomly on Skype. So just one example. Similarly on product development, sometimes that, okay, you have to align your team properly. You have to set up Jira, Scrum, and all those things. You have to hire a product designer, do proper product designing, and then architecture development, all those things. Or the other way out is just get directly to the POC, set one person, do the directly POC, and just go with it. So this is like generic question, like when you try find out ways. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So I think the first one, which is from the product market perspective, if you don't know what the market that you are selling this product into, I mean, that's a bit of a challenge, right? So you have to figure this out as quickly as possible. Who market it? who's my buyer in that market. Then comes whether this buyer is willing to buy my product and pay me for the product, which means there has to be a value proposition, right? So you have to know, who is this product? Is this to manufacturing? Is this to health technology? Is this to entertainment business? Is this to financial business, right? Where is my value? So I'll give you an example. So have you heard of this company called Arista Networks? So Arista, when they started, they were a switch, like any other switch router sort of a product. So how do you go sell a switch or a router when you have a dominant market dominant player like a Cisco who owns almost like 80, 90% of the market? How do you go and sell your switch? So what they did was they went back to the drawing board. So what is my uniqueness? What is my onlyness? The onlyness during that conversation, they figured out that low latency is the biggest value that they have compared to anything else, right? I mean, technical people were saying, oh, ours is all software based. Ours is all based on commodity hardware. Why would a customer care for all those things? If you go and tell a customer, mine is based on commodity hardware, and mine is all my routing, switching, everything is based on software. Okay, what does that mean? I mean, if I'm going to bet on you to put you in my mission critical environment, you go down, I'm going to lose my job. I would rather pay 20% more to Cisco and then have Cisco. Is that right? Right? I mean, you install infrastructure. Would you just bet on a product like that? So what they did was, they said, we'll give everything that Cisco does, but our unique value proposition is low latency. Then they figured out, where is the low latency required? They figured out the best place to sell a low latency product is in Wall Street. Because in Wall Street, if you increase 1 microsecond in the response, they care about it. So they went and proved in that market. And this, today I'm telling this as a story, right? But to go through this, it takes 6 months, 9 months with smartest of the smartest people who know everything. Still, they went through this pain. You see what I mean? So it is not unusual for even the best of the best people who have done companies, who have sold to products, to go through these motions. This is how it happens. The second, which is on the product side, the biggest mistake most entrepreneurs make is not having what I call as the product management discipline. If you don't have a product management discipline, then anything that is thrown at you, you feel like, oh, I should develop this. I should do this. So if you have a product management discipline, then you put that into a bucket. You start prioritizing. How many of you have done product management? Can you explain what is the process of how you prioritize hundreds of requests that are coming from customers, and you can only do because there is only so much engineering resource. You cannot do everything. If you try to do all the 100, then your engineer is going to melt down. So what is the process? Yes.
Yeah. So
You can come here.
hello.
You will also be on the video.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Identify your name.
So I am Sirish. I am one of the co-founders at a software development agency called Codetas back in India. And we work with a lot of entrepreneurs, build software for them ground up, and do a lot of product management also on behalf of them. So What we've regularly followed is obviously there will be a lot of inputs coming in, signals coming in from the sales team who are trying to crack a deal. There is obviously a vision that a founder or a CEO typically has, that this is how we will sell into a particular space and this is how our products would grow eventually. So there is always a roadmap, right? And then obviously there is distractions and there is competitors that bring up certain features, which obviously your potential customers may look for, right? So we typically follow a principle, which is a standard principle in most of the product management space, which is called MOSCO, which is essentially must have, good to have kind of features. You classify your features, which is essential for selling in the space that you guys are, uh, aligning to your vision, your original value proposition that you mentioned. That will allow you to streamline, prioritize a lot of things and cut out the noise that you guys would see from the market, right? Because at the end of the day, your customer, like you mentioned, needs to pay for it. And whatever you're selling as a new feature also, forget about the product. Even if you're adding a feature, you typically should contemplate whether it is going to add value to whatever you're offering today, or is it going to open up a future business line for you, right? So start with small, and then maybe you could still include that and align it to a future business prospect, right? So Moscow is most of the easiest way to path, or a path to start building a prioritized engine. That's what we typically follow.
Good. Anything else you want to add?
Okay, my name is Ajay Gulati, CEO and co-founder at Kite Cyber. We are a product company, cybersecurity product. I think at our stage of the company, I feel the features come from 3 or 4 key sources. The first is once you have customer deployments, you will get some support request, which I typically say that's the number one thing that you need to look at and see that those need to get fixed. Second, as you are talking to customers, sales team, or as a founder yourself or your product person, you need to start looking at what customers are asking and really create a matrix of which features are being asked by which customers. So you would basically have a detail about these features and these customers are asking. Then the next thing we do is we do customer segmentation. So if we are focusing on a segment of customers and that segment is asking a set of features versus we go and talk to some enterprise and they're asking for some other set of features. If that's not the segment of focus right now, we would not work on those features right now. You have very limited resources. You have to do less, not more. And I would say the biggest discipline in product at early stage company is being able to say no, not yes. It's always easy to say yes. You can say yes to 50 things, you will never get done. But if you say no to 45 and you pick which 5 matter to the customer segment you are going after, it will help you close the deals this quarter and next quarter. You just focus on those few things. And going to maybe the question about how good a process you should run versus not run, I feel that's a stage of the company problem. When the company is small, process is less critical. You are a small team, you have your CTO, you have your team working very closely together. It doesn't matter if you are doing everything through Jira. Okay, it may actually slow you down rather than speed you up. Once the team grows up, once you have a bigger team in place, you cannot run ad hoc stuff. You cannot say, oh, my CTO sent a request, can you build this API? And I built it tomorrow. There will be chaos in the company. So as you grow, your team grows, you have to then put some process in place where you say, look, we as a team discuss what are the products to build or features to build in the next 2 weeks. Then the team focuses on the design, then we implement, then QA, then release. So I feel it just depends on your stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it? So my VP engineering used to always ask if, for example, we try to request him to do other than what he already has, right, on his pipeline. He used to ask, okay, if I do this, what is the revenue you're going to guarantee? So, VP engineering usually doesn't talk about revenues, right? But you have to get to that level. You have to tell the VP engineering to ask these kind of questions. Otherwise, as he was saying, you become like a football to anybody, right? Wherever the ball comes, you just keep kicking. and there's no end to it. So you have to have these disciplines right from early days. The way you filter that out, I think he articulated it very well, that you know the market segment that you are selling to, and all the rest you just discard. So this is how great companies are built, right? It is not built randomly. It is not built by accident. It is not built by chance. So the more you go through this, the more you think through, the more you apply some of these disciplines, you will build a great company.
BV, I think with BV's knowledge, what we've learned over the period of the last 25 years of knowing you, it's infinite. So we'll have to do many, many numbers of this AMAs, and this time you will not be confused. So we will continue to have some key opportunities, tap into BV's availability to be able to maybe capture some of the questions ahead of time so that we're able to have BV address it. Again, product management process, if you will, and then take this forward. But I just wanted to thank all of those that have joined us online and here, for this very, very key session. Livia, I mean, thank you very much. Every time I hear you, I still get goosebumps about the stories of some of your challenges and what you've accomplished. Thank you very much, Vivek, Shri, the rest of the team. And then again, Gopa, thank you for sponsoring some of the stuff. So make sure we enjoy some of what is left over, and then we can call it a night for tonight. Thank you, everybody.